Welcome to the Dean's Roundtable podcast series with Bridget Johnson. Each month, we bring you game-changing conversations about K-12 education and leadership. Join us as top educators, field experts, and administrators share actionable strategies to transform your school community. Let's dive in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dean's Roundtable podcast. I'm Bridget Johnson, the founder of the Dean's Roundtable, a space created for student life professionals to connect, learn, share, and grow together. Joining us today is Jeremy LaCase, who pretty much has done it all when it comes to boarding school life. He's been a student, teacher, and now serves as an assistant head of school for student life at Taft School in Connecticut. Jeremy's journey through education is fascinating. He's held leadership roles at several schools, including Kent Hill, Cheshire Academy, Shadyside Academy. What makes Jeremy's perspective so valuable is that he's seen boarding school life from every angle. After graduating from Bowdoin College with a history degree, he went on to earn his master's from Columbia's Teachers College. But Jeremy isn't just about administration. He still teaches history classes, coaches a ski team, and lives right on campus with his wife and their 3 kids. Jeremy also founded the Gardner Carney Leadership Institute and has been a key voice in boarding school education, serving on the board of directors for the Association of Boarding Schools. When he's not in the classroom or boardroom, you might find him leading outdoor programs or coaching crew. He's spoken at countless educational conferences and continues to shape the next generation of students and leaders. We are excited to dive into conversation with Jeremy today. So nice to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Tell us how you got a bit about how you got into education in the first place.
Well, sure. Let me start by thanking you, Bridget, for having me. It's wonderful to connect with you again and to see the great work you're doing on behalf of so many folks, helping so many students benefit from thoughtful work in what I would consider the most important parts of what happens in schools, the school culture, and the way in which we interact with each other. And your gift to us all is so appreciated. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, right back at you. But your question's a good one. My story, so I recognize this is a podcast and so that people won't see me, but I'm really old.
They will see you if they're on YouTube, so they will see you.
That the long list of things you read was not necessarily a tribute to my precociousness, but was actually a tribute simply to duration. So my educational journey, though, started when I was in elementary school, really. I'm significantly dyslexic, and it took me a long time to learn to read. And as a result, school was not necessarily a great place for me. And that has framed a lot of my thinking as I've approached education, which is I want schools to be places where all kids can learn and thrive. And a lot of that has to do with helping educators think more broadly about what it means to be a student and to support kids in a range of states and strengths and weaknesses as they navigate what it is that they do. But more particularly to what we're talking about, I went to a boarding school and then went to college and then returned to that same boarding school. And actually, while I was in college, I started coaching crew at another boarding school. So lots of boarding schools. But the short of it is, what I discovered is how wonderful boarding schools are, in particular, for allowing rich interactions with kids across a range of experiences. And as a result, I thought it would be a fun way to try and make real the goal I had for making school a better place for more people. And then as a part of my journey, I had an opportunity to think critically about leadership and how we develop leaders and how we can help teachers develop leaders. And a lot of happy coincidences resulted in my being helpful. And it was kind of you to suggest that I founded the GCLI. I was a passenger more than a director in that. But the reality is it's been a key part of work that's really important to me over the last now 22 years.
Wow.
Have managed to engage with upwards of 1,000 educators on the very particular work of educating leaders. So that's sort of the crib noted version of how I got here.
Well, that's pretty amazing. And I loved how you talked about boarding schools because as someone, I did not go to boarding school. I went to public school and kind of stumbled into this kind of boarding school life. But I agree with you. That's kind of what drew me in the connections, the things that happen outside the classroom after 3 o'clock, and the coaching and the mentoring and the going to seated dinner and just getting to know students at a different level was really what kind of inspired me to kind of stay in this in education for so long. It's a beautiful thing for sure.
Well, it is, and those relationships ultimately, while not without their challenges, are the ones that ultimately are. If I'm doing a good job, they're enriching for both me and the student, and not that I gain personal value from my interactions with students, but watching students grow and develop, and being able to support them in that journey is such an enriching thing as a professional, and makes it all worthwhile when you see a kid who has really developed the skills and aptitudes and practices that allow them to thrive as human beings in the setting where you happen to be working, and then well beyond that.
Yeah, I definitely love seeing what students are up to now, and I have to remember that they're no longer my students. They're actually adults because I'm that old at this point. I'm like, I can't call you a kid anymore because you actually are a real full blown adult with kids yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
there's
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
So switching gears a little bit, as a founding executive director of GCLI, is that correct? Were you the
Yes.
founding
Yes. Yep.
executive director? So what initially inspired you all to focus on leadership as a teachable skill rather than something innate or reserved for select students?
Sure. Great question. So the history of the GCLI is a really interesting one. It's born of a bit of a real tragedy.
Mm,
Jim Carney, who's our founder and key benefactor, his son Gardner was a student at the Fountain Valley School in Colorado, graduated and then went on to the University of Colorado at Boulder, and
mhm.
was tragically killed in a kayaking accident. But his
Oh,
experience at Fountain Valley was incredibly enriching, and he developed a lot of leadership capacity in large part through the very interactions that you and I were just talking about. That he had adults who cared a lot about him, who helped him see himself in ways where he could contribute to the community. And Jim and Lori Carney wanted to honor Gardner's legacy and also contribute to the educational community by helping more of those interactions happen. And initially, they focused purely on something at Fountain Valley, and then around 2000, working with a guy named Todd Warner, who was the residence life director at Fountain Valley. They put together a white paper that has formed the sort of basis of our pedagogy of leadership.
mm.
And then that guided our programmatic endeavors that we've been engaged in over the last 21 years, which seems like a really long time. Um, but that generosity and that desire to have a broader impact resulted in our making that difference.
Your answer was a great segue into my next question in terms of the GCLI pedagogy of leadership. It combines brain science, leadership studies, cultural competency, and developmental psychology. Can you walk us through how these elements work together in practice?
Sure. So the underpinning foundation is experience.
Hmm.
And we believe that leadership can be taught through any of the experiences that happen in schools. Granted, in boarding
Okay.
schools, you have more points of contact, but in any school, the points of contact you have can serve leadership development. So in a science class, working together in a lab group, anytime you have kids doing anything other than being passive vessels for information, they are engaged in problem solving, and that's an opportunity to teach leadership. And so that's the foundation, and sort of helping teachers see the experiences that are available to them and figure out how to utilize, in essence, those teachable moments,
Mm,
both in terms of the ones that naturally occur within schools and potentially creating some with some intention behind them. And then the overlay on top of that is understanding as a teacher how your actions end up shaping the experience and the learning of students. So
mm.
there's developing teacher self-awareness. And you and I have been in this business long enough to know that there are some teachers who are highly self-aware, constantly gathering feedback from kids, using that feedback to shape the experience so that kids can really learn most effectively, and other folks who um, seem to be oblivious to the impact of their actions and are focused only on their own experience and how kids can fit into their experience. So our job is to, in essence, help teachers expand their understanding of what's happening around them, increase the likelihood that they're going to utilize feedback to help shape students' experiences, and then beyond that, develop strategies and capacities and practices and other tool bag essence elements that will allow them to make the most of the experiences either that they create or the ones that they are responding to in the student experience. And that means they need to understand what's going on neurocognitively with your average person, understanding the learning process that unfolds there, understanding how all the other aspects of the human experience fit together to shape how it is that students learn. Yeah, that help?
Yeah, no, that's great. And so, one of the things that you just said kind of sparked a question for me. We talk about, self-awareness, and there's a whole spectrum of people of, in terms of how self-aware they are or how oblivious they are. W- I'm curious to know, like, do you, when you start to do this work with teachers and you help them be more self-aware, do you see the light bulb come on? Like, oh, I am totally unaware of what's happening. And how do you kind of massage that and get them to where they need to be?
Well, so I mean, like the students, the teachers we work with have a range, right? They're all on some continuum towards infinite individual understanding and complete blindness to the reality of themselves. I think with the folks that we work with, I mean, I am cognizant of the fact that we have a self-selecting group that chooses to spend a week with us
Fair
doing
enough.
this experiential work in Colorado. But in large part, this is a group that appreciates the expanded understanding of the students' experiences. And part of this too, I mean, a huge part of working with kids in an experiential setting is emotional self-regulation for both the student and the teacher,
Sure. Yeah.
and helping teachers be really good at receiving feedback that oftentimes is hard. I mean, when you
Oh,
hear from a kid that they aren't learning well, that something you've done is challenging in a way that you didn't intend it to be challenging.
yeah.
All those kinds of things can be really hard for an educator. And how do we expand our capacity to both take on that responsibility and respond to it in a way that ultimately is helpful in that setting, even when a kid says, when you said that passing comment that you didn't think was particularly meaningful, it really hurt me.
Mm,
Oftentimes that's a really hard thing for an educator to engage with. But the more that an educator is open to that feedback and the more that kids are willing to share, you increase the likelihood that the kid is going to trust that educator, want to work with the educator, be more willing to go along with and engage in the work that is being put in front of them. All of that is enhanced, in spite of the fact that it's really hard.
right.
It's hard work. It's,
Yeah,
none of us want to
absolutely.
be told that what we did was hurtful. That's
No, but that's how we learn and grow, right? We don't grow if everything that we hear, all the feedback we hear is always positive. There has to be some critical feedback that's given there for sure. And the other thing that I was thinking about is when you're comfortable enough to give some critical feedback to someone else, that creates a psychological safety that is so important in building relationships. And it's really about relationships. We know it's about learning, but at the same time, it's also about relationships. And I think the students learn best when they're in relationship with their teacher in a way that allows them to have a back and forth kind of feedback. So,
yeah. I mean, and to that end, I think the challenge of our world at the moment is that education appears to be transactional, as in, I do this stuff, I get this grade, I get this outcome.
right,
And really, the essence of education is relational. How do we help kids engage in the learning process in ways that help them become the people that they and we want them to be? But you got to start with the relationship. Um, we are fighting against that transactional nature that both students and parents, and quite frankly, plenty of teachers
yeah.
sometimes engage in. So,
Yeah, and it's hard, we take sometimes it's like do as I say, not as I do. If you're not modeling that behavior, how do you expect the students to kind of rise to the top and do the things that you say that they should be doing? So, it's everyone's role. Everyone plays a part in it for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to shift gears a little bit. So we
Sure.
often hear about student leadership in terms of formal positions like student government. How does GCLI's approach differ from traditional notions of student leadership?
In essence, we believe that leadership can happen in lots of different places and lots of different forms. And oftentimes, it's not a titled position where some
Mm,
of the best learning happens. Oftentimes, it's a set of circumstances where a kid can step into a situation and choose behaviors that ultimately help that situation and the group of kids involved in it um, be more successful than they would have been if that kid hadn't been involved. So if we are doing a good job making that part of the student experience across the board when they are in a titled or assigned or appointed position, they are better able to see the breadth of what that responsibility means,
mm,
do a better job of engaging other members of the group in ways that when they are not the best person to do the work that the group needs to be, they can delegate, they can engage, all those kinds of things, and that they see leadership ultimately as a collaborative process
mm.
that best serves everybody in the group rather than I'm the leader and I am here
Right.
either solely focused on this goal and the experience of others is irrelevant, or solely here to serve my own purposes, which is sort of the worst case scenario of leadership,
Sure.
rather than serving the needs of the group and the goals of the group. And so I think that, and we talk about that pre-K teachers can be involved in helping kids develop this capacity, just like college professors could. So
Sure.
anywhere on the continuum, if you understand what it is you're trying to develop and what capacities you're hoping students will have, a pre-Ker is not going to be able to speak. Actually, they may not be able to speak at all, but they may not be able to speak as verbally and thoughtfully as a high school senior about all the nuances and functionalities and dysfunctionalities of groups and leadership. But they actually have oftentimes a very insightful understanding of
Sure.
how people interact with each other, and that being kind to each other is essential to working together to solve a problem. And quite frankly, they oftentimes have to work together in really thoughtful ways. They may not be curing cancer, but they are starting the essential parts of learning how to be a really good human being. And part of being a really good leader is being a really good human being.
There you go. And so, you touched on this a little bit already, but how does teaching leadership skills specifically address the developmental needs of adolescents?
I guess I'll refer to my earlier comments. Most importantly, ultimately it's helping them learn to work with other people in ways that are beneficial to everybody involved.
Yep.
If you're a part of a group and hopefully we have all been parts of groups that function at a really high level where we feel really valued for what we're contributing and value everyone else who's contributing, and as a result we are highly successful. And I think a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to recreate that once they've experienced it,
Mhm.
but they lack the intention or the understanding or other things that allow them to do their best work in helping groups function at a high level, and also giving themselves the grace for when things don't go particularly well, for why that's happening and which aspects they actually have any control over and that kind of stuff. And so as we think about developing leaders,
Mhm.
the expansive understanding of that is people who ultimately are helping groups function at a higher level. And that may mean they are simply there, and their presence is supportive of what the group is trying to do, or it may be that they are taking some particular responsibility or working in some particular way, but they are doing
Mhm.
all those things consciously with the goal of helping the group be as effective as possible. And so a student who has benefited from a teacher who's helped them develop that understanding is going to help their groups function at a higher level and help those
Sure.
groups be more successful in broad and meaningful ways.
Absolutely. And so earlier you mentioned that the GCLI community now includes close to 1,000 educators from lots of different, hundreds of different schools. What do you think are the common challenges these educators face when trying to implement leadership education in their different contexts?
I mean, it really depends on the nature of their communities and the issues that they're trying to navigate and how that community perceives the idea. I mean, the challenge of any of this is when I say the word leadership, there as many people as exist, there seem to be
The
definitions or
definitions.
understandings of that concept. And so then that ends up shaping communities' ability to absorb these ideas in ways that ultimately are beneficial. And in
Yep.
part is why we try and make this as simple and clear as possible, in that when we're talking about leadership, we're really just talking about groups functioning at a high level where people feel supported and have a shared understanding of what they're trying to accomplish. In that way, at this moment, and actually we've been doing this for 22 years, this has always existed. Leadership ends up being a bit of a fraught term because it gets politicized in ways that aren't necessarily helpful to helping kids develop their understanding of what's going on in groups. So, somebody who thinks that some didactic leader is the best example of leadership, or some collaborative, holistic person is the best. That there is no best. There is the person who could step in at the moment and have the greatest positive influence on what a group needed to do in order to solve the problems before them. And ideally, in my estimation, the best is the person who does the least damage to the other people in the group, or is not sacrificing others to reach that positive end for the group. Although some people would suggest sacrificing others is I don't know. It's not how I would lead, but I'm sure somebody will disagree with me on that.
Yeah, I'm not one of those. I'm not interested in sacrificing others, but love to hear about a story where you've witnessed significant transformation in a student through intentional leadership education. Can you share one of those with us?
Sure. I think some of my favorite things are when organizations have embraced these concepts and have really used them. There are a bunch of different schools that have engaged with the GCLI at various times, and they're doing really neat things that end up affecting their communities in really wonderful ways.
Uh-huh.
The stories that I know best are the ones where I've been directly involved with students who are trying to do meaningful things. And my run into this in part is trying to stall to think about one that I remember all the
That's fair
details. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
instead of you don't have to do it. How do you know when it's working? Like you've done this, you've done the training, you've come back to your school, you've had these conversations with kids, you think it's happening, but you're not really sure. Are there some telltale signs that all right, that they're paying attention, this thing is working, it's happening, we just have to be patient?
so, I mean, ultimately, the most meaningful is if students want to collaborate with adults in the school community to solve problems, as opposed to viewing adults as adversaries in the process. That's usually the most prime indication that the community is willfully working together on creating leadership amongst the adults. If this process is working well, the adults are learning along with the kids. I mean, I learn regularly from my students about
Absolutely.
how we can work together on leadership. So those tend to be the strongest indicators. The spots where I know I have the most to learn are the places where it's not going particularly well, when there are adversarial relationships and kids are not interested in connecting and trying to understand why that's the case. Am I doing a good job gathering feedback from them? Why is my perception of our goals so misaligned in a way that we do seem to be regularly in confrontation? You've been in education for a long time too. I mean, think about the kids who have really struggled. Why is this kid struggling? I want to know.
Yeah.
I need to understand. And generally, it's opaque at best as we try and figure out where that struggle comes from. But the success stories tend to be more obvious in that the kid clearly gets it, and they're communicating well with their peers, and they're working together in ways that they're excited about. And the end result is that the community feels really good about what it's accomplishing, however you define that community. That tends to be when it's working. But those struggle moments, I think, are where some of the best learning happens. So if it's sunshine and roses
Yep.
all the time,
Not really learning a lot.
right? Yeah. I mean, that's
Not
I I talk about this often because I work at a school where we have a lot of extraordinary kids. On
Mhm.
a certain level, we're trying not to screw them up.
Right.
They would learn almost independent of
Anywhere they
us.
were, right?
Right. And so some of the most meaningful things are those moments where a kid who's really struggled um, suddenly understands that we are working together in their common interest, and that we can be collaborative, and that they aren't giving something up by working with others in a way that's meaningful. Like it's like the sun comes out from behind the storm clouds kind of situation. And
Uh-huh.
those are just really rich and wonderful moments. And I've been fortunate to have a number of those.
Mhm.
I've also suffered a number of ongoing storms that I can't seem to find my way out of, or I can't help a kid find their way out of. But it's those moments that are really meaningful and exciting when you're doing this type of work.
It is, but sometimes we have those folks who are like, "Yeah, that's great, but I gotta teach. I got things to do. This is another add-on. I don't have time. I don't have the bandwidth." What do you say to those folks who feel like they can't kind of figure out how to kind of add this or integrate this into the work that they're doing?
Yeah, no, definitely gotten that comment before. So I thank you for asking that question. I mean, ultimately, um, none of this suggests that it's going to be easy
Mhm.
or formulaic. Um, but quite frankly, if you're in an experience with students already, it's really a question of how do you make it more fruitful. I mean,
Mm.
I've met with very few educators that want the educational process to not be more fruitful.
Right.
If kids could learn more as a result, then fantastic. And so it's really a question of helping them develop the capacity and being willing to engage in the frustration inherent in it. But to your point, there are plenty of folks who just want to teach whatever their subject is, and either the kids get it or they don't. And so ultimately, as we think about being intentional in the creation of our communities, how do we navigate that? How do we help them see that there's value beyond Chaucer or calculus or balancing chemistry equations, and that
Yeah.
those things, while important in and of themselves, can also be methodologies to another end, which is helping kids develop the capacity to lead and to work with others really effectively. I mean, getting a bunch of people to go work together on a pilgrimage is a great example of leadership in action. So
Absolutely.
and most of the key human discoveries have been ones that have resulted from collaboration, in spite of some people's belief that they are the lone geniuses. Almost all of them have been highly dependent on lots of other people helping them get to that point.
Yes, a lot of hands make light work. And so thinking about this intentional leadership education and how it can affect faculty culture. You just talked about it a little bit right now. Going beyond just student outcomes, like thinking about how I don't know, thinking about kind of in your practice or whatever you're teaching, how if you're more collaborative, if you're thinking more about how to give critical feedback, how that can kind of elevate your game, so to speak. And I don't know how often people think about that.
Yeah, but as you're pointing to, it's really based on community culture. So
Yeah.
what we have seen is that one individual can go in and spark change, and they don't
Hmm.
necessarily need to be the dean of faculty or the head of school. But it doesn't hurt if you happen to be the head of school and you want to talk about how we give each other feedback and why it's important that we do this and that we be open to it. And if you're going to do that and be the head of the school, though, you better really uh, walk the
Walk the talk.
proverbial
Yep.
talk that you are delivering. But ultimately, um, in my experience, most human beings, if they see something that's more effective and they think they can do it, they're going to be inclined to. And faculty cultures where we work collaboratively. I mean, I've worked at 7 different boarding schools, and the
Hmm.
places where the faculty felt that they were working together on a shared task and that they were each individually valued in that work, they feel a lot better, and we feel like we're doing something that matters. And if the faculty experience is transactional and not based on shared relation, the student culture is going to be the same, and you're going
Right.
to miss a lot of opportunities to really help students learn.
You are, and we don't want to miss those opportunities, do we? We want to make sure that we are helping the students learn and we're modeling that behavior in the best way that we can so that we are producing not necessarily good individuals, because I feel like everyone's inherently good, but members, people who can contribute to society and can help others do the same as well. One of the things I also wanted to talk about is, this notion of, leadership also helping with, things like anxiety and social media and things that, so much is happening in our world today, and it's a lot for everyone to deal with.
Mhm.
This contemporary challenges, as they call them. How can these teaching these skills help students face these challenges, do you think?
I mean, ultimately, the root of leadership is understanding yourself and being able to choose behaviors that are going to help your group.
Mhm.
And so it gives students agency over their own behavior. And so I have choice in what I choose to engage with and why I'm choosing to do it and what larger services that provides me and to the community. And so rather than being a passive participant in the algorithms of whatever social media is influencing my experience, I get to be an active participant. So what that means is if I am engaging in social media, I'm choosing to be in that space for good or for ill. And I get to choose what I do there rather
Mhm.
than feeling compelled by forces outside of myself or feeling the victim of things that are happening. Now, if somebody does something bad and it affects me, I have every right to feel that I have been wronged or that I've been affected by that thing. Um, but I also get to choose how I respond to it and react to it. And that if I want to do something about it, I then have the capacity to do that.
To be
That
able to
I
do
am,
it.
as a result of thinking about leadership and having practiced those skills in a variety of ways, I am no longer a passive participant in that.
Right.
I can choose how I respond. I can choose what actions I engage in, and I have agency in ways that oftentimes I think kids at this moment, for that matter, adults at this moment, don't always feel. Quite frankly, at all of our detriment, because when we feel we are passive victims of things that are happening, we no longer are change agents in our own lives in ways
Yeah.
that I think are oftentimes really challenging. And um, Catherine Steiner Adair, who's our institute scholar and has been working with the GCLI for a number of years,
Mhm.
wrote the Big Disconnect in 2013, where she was talking about all of the negative impacts of social media and to a certain extent phones that sort of has come to maturation in the last 12 months. But that's really informed what we've been talking about for some time. Granted, I think social media, phones, while very sticky and um, challenging in so many ways,
Mhm.
are one example of the ways in which things outside of us end up influencing our experience. And the more that we help kids think about that in terms of agency, the better prepared they are to navigate the world. Whatever the thing is that is looking
Sure.
to shape them, they then get to choose how they're going to engage with
How
it.
they respond to it. So, can we talk a little bit about how, I mean, GCLI has been around for 22 years, 20, 22 years, somewhere in there. How has your approach changed? Like, what has changed? What do you do differently? And what do you kind of see on the horizon?
Well, one of the things that I love about the Leadership Lab, which is our key experiential offering, is that at the end of it, we do a comprehensive survey of the experience of the folks who are part of it, and then
Uh-huh.
we incorporate all of that feedback into what it is that we do. So it is a highly iterative process.
Awesome.
Excuse me. And so we are constantly learning about how we can best serve those who are part of our community, both immediately and in the distant past. And the core tenets have remained the same. Basically, how
Mhm.
do we help teachers be self-aware, and how do they use that information to help shape experiences for students? And then how do they, the brain science that we understood in 2011 '05 has evolved a bit, but the premise of understanding the person as a learner and how they're experiencing this has remained. Those core tenets have been helped us then shape the how we've ultimately helped teachers develop their capacity to employ those ideas as they work in schools. And so, if you go back to 2005, there was a lot of a wonderful brain researcher named Joanne Deek sharing key ideas about learning and how brains develop and all those kinds of things. And that's still a key part of what we do. We just deliver it through a much more experiential framework because we know that works better and is more in line with what teachers are going to be doing when they return to their schools. And so our evolution in part has been how to learn to do that in ways that we can deliver the information we need to and help teachers experience things that are going to allow them to do the teaching that's so critical when they get back to their schools.
Awesome.
Yeah, which is I mean, how often do you get to rewrite the whole thing that you're doing
I know.
on a year-to-year basis? It doesn't happen anyplace.
Not really. And so, thinking a little bit about like what you see ahead and like, I feel like every day is a new challenge, right? But, thinking, 2, 3, 5 years down the road, like how do you see leadership education evolving to meet the needs of students who face increasingly complex global challenges, not just, local challenges?
I don't see the need, as you point to, becoming smaller anytime soon. Um,
Fair
I
enough.
think the real question is, what does engagement look like? So,
Yeah.
um, are there other ways that we can reach our community and model the supports we can provide in ways that are going to be more engaging to more people?
Yeah.
One of the things that we're finding is that, and you may be finding this with the Dean's Roundtable,
Hmm.
how much time people can or are willing to commit to any one thing
Yep.
changes. And so, can we provide a robust experience in different timeframes that allow people to get the critical learning that they need? I think that's sort of writ large when we look
Hmm.
at professional development, what people can invest in it, all those kinds of things. I mean, with
Absolutely.
markets going up and down today,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. Ultimately, how do we make it easy for people to do the learning they need or access it? How do we do that more comprehensively? And we charge a fee, much like you do.
Yep.
We need the fee to cover the cost of running what we do. But at the same
Absolutely.
time, is there a way for us to provide subsidies or supports so we reach a broader audience who might not have the resources? Because these skills are critical in every frame, and our ability to help folks in every spot have what
Yeah.
they need in order to do this ultimately serves the world. And so we're perpetually looking for ways to do that. I think the things that absolutely will not change is the very relational nature of what we're talking about, and
Absolutely.
how do we help people collaboratively solve problems together. I guess that's redundancy, department of redundancy, but you get the
Yeah,
idea.
I do get the idea. And so as we think about coming to a close today, are there a couple of key takeaways you want people to think about when they kind of think about student leadership?
I mean, ultimately, it's not some, the purview of some special people who were born a particular way. It's really everybody's space to be in the leadership space. And quite frankly, it's what I leave with is a call to action for all of
Mhm.
us to be participants in this space. And it means first and foremost engaging with kids about what they are doing and how they want to have an impact on the world, and then helping them develop the skills to be able to do that in a productive and positive way that works with everybody else. At the very root of it is an idea of a community that's founded in ensuring that each individual feels valued for who they are,
Absolutely.
based on their defining of it, not anyone else's. And then at the same time, once they feel valued for who they are, contributing to something greater than themselves. So um, if we think of the fullest experience of human beings, it's those two pieces together that I think are most essential. And if we're doing good work at the GCLI, it's helping realize that for as many people as possible.
Awesome. So tell us again about the GCLI. When is it? How long is it? All that stuff. Give us the deets.
Fantastic. So here are the details. We offer what's called the Gardner Carney Leadership Lab. We'll be offering our 22nd version of that this June, beginning on June 16th and ending on June 22nd. 98% sure I have those dates correct.
Fair enough.
It's hosted generously by the Fountain Valley School in Colorado Springs, Colorado. It's a highly experiential cohort type experience. It's also a lot of fun. Our research that I referenced earlier universally demonstrates that it's one of the best professional development experiences, right up there with the Dean's Roundtable, that folks have done. And we really hope that folks will come out and join us and participate in this learning in ways that are really helpful to them. We have a great faculty. I've mentioned Catherine Steiner-Adair, but then we have wonderful folks who work in independent schools all across the U.S. who help facilitate things and are just some of the best human beings I know. I feel very fortunate to work with this group. And I know other people will really benefit from getting to know them as well. And of course, if people have questions, you can find us at gclileadership.org or just email me at jlacase@gclileadership.org. And we also do lots of other stuff where we work in ways that benefit schools. So if your school needs something in particular, reach out to us and we're happy to talk to you about how we could help you.
Awesome. Jeremy, thanks so much. I'm so glad we had the opportunity to reconnect. I'm so glad you are here talking about GCLI and student leadership and all the things that come with it. Thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and so good to reconnect. And as ever, if I can be helpful, let me know.
I will. Thank you. And so as we close today, I want to remind people that registration is now open for the Dean's Roundtable Annual Conference. The conference will be held June 23rd through 26th on the campus of New England Innovation Academy. That's the week after GCLI, so maybe you can do both. We have an exciting lineup of speakers, and we hope to see you all there. And as always, thanks for spending time with us at the Dean's Roundtable podcast. Have a good one.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Dean's Roundtable podcast series. For those of you leading the charge in student life, if you're ready to rediscover what made you fall in love with this work in the first place, join us at the Dean's Roundtable Annual Conference. During these 4 transformative days, you'll connect with fellow deans, share game-changing ideas, and walk away with practical strategies you can use right now. Head to deansroundtable.org to learn more, and if you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Today's episode was hosted by Bridget Johnson in conversation with Jeremy Lacase, produced and edited by Andrick Sigmund, and music by PremiumBeat.com. For any questions, contact information can be found in the episode description, and, as always, thanks again for listening.